Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be looking at the M9 100-200 training today. Ensign Select Gillette was so kind as to volunteer his own pistol for the demonstration. I'm going to be doing voiceover for you today, so just kind of bear with us. And you'll be able to see my cursor move on the screen, and that's how I'll be able to point to what I want you to direct your attention towards. Okay, so let's blow this thing up. And let's begin. I've got a few talking points that I want to make sure that we cover and not miss because it's important that we are familiar with these firearms that we carry. Okay, so here we go. We're looking at the Beretta M9, which is a double single action semi-automatic handgun. This pistol is designed by the Italian company Beretta. It is strongly modeled after the Walther back in the day that the German army used during World War II. Um, this pistol is very reliable, well constructed, and very accurate. Now, yes, some of the ones that you are used to using have been very much so worn out and abused, but the guns are an excellent design. So now we're going to take a look at a few things. He's going to safety check. He's going to ensure that the magazine has been removed from the pistol. You can see that he has ammunition loaded into the magazine. That is a 15 shot magazine. It holds 15 rounds. Okay. And you load them. They're double stacked single position feed. So you see how there's only one on top, but it gets a little bit fatter towards the bottom so that it kind of double stacks them. That's how most handguns are designed because that's the easiest way to insert a magazine into a pistol grip and have it feed into a single barrel. So, as he replaces these rounds back in his 15 shot magazine, remember during qualification course, you'll either have like mags loaded of 6 or 12, but it does hold 15. So, that is your standard Beretta M9 magazine. And he's demonstrating right now how you would insert it into the magazine well, the pointy end to the front, okay, pointy end front, and then you push it all the way in and seat it, okay. So done with the magazine for a minute right this minute. The magazine well has been removed and made empty. So what we need to talk about a little bit with this pistol is it has about a 4.9-inch barrel. It is semi-automatic, means it's self-loading. Right this minute, we're kind of looking at the top, get a little bit of an idea of what the sights are. They're fixed metal iron sights with a white front dot and two dots in the rear. Some of the military pistols also have a U-notch dot in the rear, so it's like a almost like an eye. Now we're moving on to the safety. Um, He's placing the weapon on fire and then placing it back on safe. It acts as a safety decocker as well. So now he's going to check the chamber. So the magazine has been removed and he's checking the chamber to make sure that it's empty. You can visually and physically inspect it. Right now he's manipulating the safety, showing you how the safety actually disengages the trigger. And then when he places the weapon on fire, you can see the double action functions working. So you'll notice the hammer comes back as well as the firing pin safety block moves out of the way of the firing pin. All right. Let's see. Next thing we need to talk about is probably going to be disassembly functions. How do you do that? You'll notice there is a button right here where my cursor is. And what's going to happen is Ensign Select will depress that button in a moment and show you exactly how all that works. First, he's going to demonstrate the loaded chamber indicator here, which is part of the extractor. Now, if you noticed, um, when he before he placed the magazine in the weapon, that was smooth. Now you can actually see right here where my cursor is a little bit of red paint and it's protruding. That proves to you that the weapon is loaded because the extractor is holding tension on the rim of a cartridge. There you can see that cartridge that he had previously in the chamber is now removed. All right, so that's a safety feature on this gun. It will tell you if it's loaded visually and physically. So now we're moving on to that disassembly button. That disassembly button is going to be depressed, and you keep it depressed. Okay, you maintain pressure on it, and then you rotate the takedown lever 90 degrees so that it's in a vertical orientation like you see now. So he rotated it down 90 degrees. That's him demonstrating right there. Now, once he releases the slide lock, you will then see he's pointing at it right now. you will then see that the weapon is able to be disassembled. You want to maintain positive control over the slide. It will shoot off the end of the gun if you do not maintain positive control. So now he's got it broken down into two halves. You've got a grip frame in his right hand, and you have the slide and barrel assembly in the left. So now we're looking at the grip frame itself. You can see the guide rails here that the slide rides on, and those rails are just metallic pieces of aluminum that the steel slide rides on, almost like a railroad track, kind of, sort of. And you can see where the metal has worn on it, and that's what the action slides back and forth on. All right. So you're looking into the magazine well right now. He's got his thumb there on the hammer. He's showing you the half cock notch position, and then there's the full cock position all the way back like so. Um, there you go. And then you can see the ejector sticking up. It looks kind of like an L shape. All right, with a little notch on it right here. That ejects the spent cartridges as the slide comes to the rear and kicks them out so you can load a fresh one. Now we're looking at the slide barrel assembly. Um, what you'll see here is the barrel that is still currently installed into the slide, and you kind of get an idea of what the sight picture would look like. All right. And now he's going to remove the recoil spring and recoil the guide rod itself. The recoil spring is what gives that forward pressure onto the action itself. The guide rod makes sure that that spring doesn't get wild and gnarly in there. Okay, it's literally a guide rod. It guides the spring. All right, so he's now removed the barrel and locking block from the slide. So now you're looking at the removed barrel with a locking block attached to it. You see those tabs hanging off the side of it? Those are the actual locking blocks themselves. Okay, they move up and down into position in the slide, and just like he's doing right now, manipulating them, and they keep the action locked during the firing sequence. Right now, you're looking to the chamber, and then you can see the rifling inside of that chamber. 9mm chambers off of the mouth of the cartridge, not the rim. And then you can see that rifling inside of it, which imparts a spin onto the projectile, just like a quarterback throwing a football. Okay. So these are all your components. So the chamber end is on your left, the muzzle end is there in his right hand, and he's working the locking blocks right now, checking for function. For those, you inspect them, look for cracks and stuff like that. Make sure the metal doesn't look like it's been peened or beaten, like with a hammer, and make sure there's no cracks. That's the kind of stuff you're looking for. All right, now he's going to look at the slide itself. This is a field stripped slide. You can see the front sight still there, the hole where the barrel goes, and the hole for the guide rod. It's an open top design, which hopefully prevents it from having too many malfunctions by allowing dirt and debris to kind of flow freely instead of getting jammed up in there. Um, you can see the safety in there. You can also see the firing pin block, which he's pushing now manually with his index finger. You can see it rise and fall. You can see it right there. Watch it. Boom. And so what that does is it prevents the firing pin from hitting a primer unless the trigger is being pulled. It is like an internal safety mechanism of this firearm. Um, and he's just giving you a good look at the sides of the slide and the milling work that's done on it. Now, the guide rod, in his case, he's got a polymer, so it's a little bit of a newer Beretta polymer guide rod. Most of the military guns still have a metal guide rod. Either one you'll see in military service from the M9. They both work perfectly fine. The polymer one's nice because it saves a little bit of weight, and it's a pretty easy part to replace. They cost like $3. So there's your fully field stripped pistol, 15 round magazine, grip frame, slide, barrel, and guide rod and recoil spring. All right, so that's your field strip pistol. It's about as far as you'll need to take them apart for basic cleaning and maintenance in the field or after we do a weapons qualification course. And here we're going to do some reassembly of the slide and barrel. And so what you have to do, you can see he's trying to fiddle with it right now. What you're trying to do is get those locking blocks to lock into those lugs. And so as you get the guide rod and spring in position, uh, and see, he doesn't even realize it right now because he's working around a camera. I've experienced this before, but the barrel is actually not in battery, and the locking blocks are not engaged. So when he goes to reassemble, he'll have a little bit of trouble right here, and it's something to pay attention for. The barrel should be engaged right up here into the top of the actual slide, and you'll see it once he figure. Yep. So he's already realized it. He's like, darn, this thing isn't quite into battery. And then what you would do is insert the rear of the slide assembly onto the front of the rails, and then you would slide it all the way to the rear and lock it with the slide lock. So all he's doing right now is clearly he's discovered his locking lugs are not in place. He's probably just gonna adjust them really fast and then get them reassembled here. Let's see. Yes, indeed. Yep, that's exactly all it was. He discovered what had happened. So see how easy it is when the barrel is in the proper position. It'll just go right on. He locks it to the rear with the slide lock by pushing upwards on it with his thumb, like he's demonstrating right now, and then he will then turn that disassembly lever 90 degrees back to its locked position, closed position, and now the weapon is reassembled, and it's time for like a function check, and we're going to make sure that everything is properly working. The slide lock released the slide there, which is good. He's checking the safety. You can see the safety is engaged right now in the down position, so the hammer was not being actuated. Now he's placed it on fire, and the hammer is actuated. This is a double single action pistol. That means it can fire from the cocked position or the fired position with a pull of the trigger. So the trigger will actually cock and fire the hammer, which is what he's demonstrating now. And then he's going to show you the full cock position. This is the single action mode right here. Boom, there you go. That was a single action trigger pull. And then the safety itself is also a decocker. So not only does it prevent the pistol from being fired, it also decocks the hammer, even on a live round. All right, so make sure you know how to actuate that safety. Highly recommend you do it with your thumbs. That's the most positive and authoritative way to do so. So he's doing safety, magazine, chamber, safety procedure right now. So he checked his safety, then he verified there was no magazine, then he visually and physically inspects the chamber, and then checks the safety one more time. And what that does is allows him to verify that he has a safe and clear weapon. All right. So for administrative purposes, that's what you would do. Guys, semi-automatic pistols, the biggest mistake I see people make is they think they've unloaded the gun by simply taking a round out of the chamber. But if the magazine is still in the weapon, when you let the slide go home, you have now chambered another live round. So in essence, you have to always remove the magazine. Okay. So check that the weapon's on safe, check to see if the magazine is present, then visually and physically inspect the chamber to make sure there's no ammunition present, then finally one last time check that safety, and then you can administratively do what you need to with the weapon, whether that is to place it into a gun rack, hand it off to another person, do an administrative type stuff and tasks. All right, for weapons turnover type situations. All right, so that is the Beretta M9. If you guys have any questions, please hit me up on email or the WhatsApp. Uh, Fires 9x19 Luger 9mm Parabellum. Uh, we normally see 124 grain jacketed full metal jacket projectiles that we use in the military, and I'm sure we'll still have it for a while. Luckily, let me show you this really quickly while I have a chance. The Air Force and the United States Navy will be going over to a new sidearm, so we'll have to do some new work here before long, because this is what we'll be transitioning towards. All right, this is the basic model of the pistol right here, known as the M18. It is slightly shorter than the M17, which the United States Army is using, but the Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps are going to be using this slightly compact version of the M17. So it's still going to remain a 9mm. It still has a safety, but it's striker fired, so it's totally different. So we'll get a chance to look at those soon. Hopefully, we'll get them in inventory sometime fiscal year 2021. All right, guys, be safe out there. If you have any questions, hit me up. You guys take care.